Parenting ourselves is the how of self-love. People talk about you should love yourself all the time, but nobody's given really good, clear instructions on how to love yourself. I say it's parenting yourselves. That's what it is. That's the act. We build a relationship with ourselves. We talk to ourselves like we would a close friend or our child, instead of the way that often we're talking to ourselves.
My name is Deb Blum, and this is the Whole Soul Way. It's my signature program that I've been teaching for the past 4 years, and I decided to offer the foundation lessons, exercises, and tools for free on YouTube and all of the major podcast channels, because I truly believe that the world needs more of us, healed, whole, authentic, and awake. And you know what? I don't want to be a barrier to anyone getting the help that they need. And in fact, I really want to be part of the change. Each lesson builds on the last. So if this is your first time here, make sure that you start at the beginning. This is your invitation. Show up, do the work, and join the movement of souls who are committed to creating a better world, one inner transformation at a time. Let's dive in. Welcome to step 5. I cannot believe that we are in step 5 of our 6-step journey. It's crazy. Anyway, so we're here talking about the idea of cultivating a loving relationship with yourself, aka parenting yourself. This is a time when we really step into intentionally cultivating that relationship with yourself. Now, you probably feel like, wow, I've already cultivated an amazing relationship with myself compared to what I had before, right? You've learned how to understand yourself better, to know your patterns better, to see how your inner protector shows up, why she's showing up, what the underlying pain is. You probably feel like you're tending to your heart and your needs and your feelings a lot more than you did before. You're probably feeling like you know what it's like to step into your inner adult a little bit more. You may not be doing it all the time, but you know the concept. So now it's time to get a little bit more into it, to really deepen our day-to-day, moment-to-moment relationship with ourselves. And some of that is through actual actions, habits, practices. And we'll get into that when we talk about self-connection. And we'll also be diving into the idea of how to truly bear witness to our experience in a way that most of us never received as children. So how to really be there to see and understand and listen to ourselves the way we long for. We're going to talk about why did we get to the place where we are right now, where we're having to parent ourselves, and some of the steps in the journey to parenting ourselves. So this step is critically important for us to learn how to cultivate that type of connection with ourselves, to have this type of loving relationship with yourself. It's the foundation for every other relationship you have. And in fact, every relationship that you have with other people, whatever it is that they're doing that you don't like or that you wish they were doing, it's identifying something inside of you, some childhood need or desire or feeling that you have not faced yet. So everyone is being a mirror for you. Everything that happens in your life is fodder for your own growth and healing. They're all showing you trailheads that point you back to yourself so that you can go in and cultivate this kind of relationship with yourself. So I'm so glad you're here. I'm super excited to teach this to you because I really believe this is so important. And I also commend you for the amount of work that you've already done to get you to the place where you are right now, that you can truly be claiming this relationship at this depth. It's beautiful.
I just want to come back over and over again to what we're here doing together is learning how to grow ourselves up into emotionally, psychologically, and spiritually mature and whole women, to become who we're really meant to be, not who other people imposed upon us, but who we're really meant to be, and to live fully in alignment with our soul's fullest expression. So to live in love to our potential. And as we go through this process of parenting ourselves, we then unhook from fear, conditioning, programming, and all the false beliefs that we've been given and all the pressure to be someone that we're not. We unhook from that paradoxically by honoring it, right? By welcoming the parts of us that have been protecting us in this way so that we can help loosen the grip there. And then we come into wholeness by embracing all of ourselves and living from our essence and becoming the source of love. Not just our own love, but literally the source of love. Let's just do a quick recap. Last time we went through the steps of the Soul Way GPS. We talked about self-leadership and also the spiral of healing and how this isn't some linear path. And not only do we spiral through this spiral of healing, but we also move up the levels of Soul Way GPS to the place of our soul really taking its place in our lives as the leader. And then the introduction to the dialogue quadrant as well. Probably one of the most important things you can walk away from today with is the importance of always being the parent, because the risk is that we think we are being our inner parent, but we're actually acting from the inner protector, or we're actually acting from the inner child. So bringing so much intentionality. We'll talk about 4 ways we parent ourselves and the importance of self-acceptance. I use parent yourself, but you probably heard other people talk about reparenting. And that's a pretty common word out there. My philosophy on this is that none of us are emotional or psychological adults when we hit 18. No one. And so our intention here is to pick up where our parents left off and fill in the gaps by using trailheads. We work on reconnecting to our whole selves, loving ourselves the way we needed when we were children and want now, fulfilling those unmet childhood emotional needs that we most of the time go around wanting other people to do for us, coming into attunement, and I believe creating secure attachment within ourselves. If we believe we didn't get secure attachment from our childhood, we can cultivate it. And then coming into a loving relationship with our inner child, coming into being our bestie, and then being the one who listens to us. Whenever we hear ourselves saying to other people, like, nobody listens to me or anything like that, coming back to the place of, wait a second, do I listen to me? And then through all of that, we build inner safety and trust, and we source from there. Margaret Paul is, I'll refer to her more than once today, is the author of a book, Healing Your Aloneness. And I have gotten some training from her as well. And she says, we feel alone when we disconnect from ourselves and then feel lonely because we cannot connect to others until we connect to ourselves. And that's the paradox of all this, right? I want to feel loved, but we have to come back first to us and then go back out there in the world. Just a reminder, this is our journey that we're on. And right now we're in the far left-hand corner on the bottom. You have this in the workbook and probably remember it from last time. This is what we're diving into today, which is very exciting. Parenting ourselves, which is the deepest experiencing of ourselves, the feeling and the healing stage of the spiral. Just another reminder, the yin, the feminine energy, and the parenting of ourselves in the nurturance, and yang, or the masculine energy, and the parenting ourselves more on the action and the showing up. This is not about being a man or a woman. This is about the energy that all of us have within us, a masculine and feminine, or a yin and a yang energy. Everybody has it. We will often have a natural propensity toward one or the other, or maybe it's not natural, maybe it's nurtured. I don't really know, but we'll have that. And it is possible that more men have more masculine energy and women have more feminine energy. But I think ultimately the goal is to be more fluid. And I know for me, I tended to have my masculine energy cultivated in my family. I was very much the pushing to do better, the problem solving, the putting myself out there and all of that. And that was great. And that served me well in many ways. I did it from the place of grind in a lot of ways, grind and pushing. And when we bring in the more feminine energies and we soften up a little bit, we can then start to come at that doing from less of a grind kind of a way, where we come from self-compassion, we come from more flow. I heard recently somebody say this, that if someone has a lot of feminine energy, what will happen is often they just want to flow, but there's no channeling of that energy. So the masculine kind of channels us more linearly, but then when you're in that, you then flow within it. And so it's really a balance of the two. And that's what we're trying to do here. So a lot of people teach parenting yourself from nurturance only, but without going back out into the world again, you actually cannot learn how to cultivate the worth and to see that you're worth the effort, because it's the action in the world that actually does help us to really validate, I'm worth the effort. Oh, I went out there and I was brave and did this thing and I didn't die. oh, look at me setting a boundary with somebody. So it's both. How do we become so sad, fearful, doubting, anxious, and depressed? How the heck do precious, tender little babies turn into addicts, dictators, and murderers, and sex offenders, and even the little things that we don't feel good about? How did we get there? How does that happen? How do we lose our spontaneous wonder and creativity, but then at the same time, we're also acting immaturely and impulsively? And I think we all know the answer is wounding and traumas, right? And so I say trauma, I want to say there's a classical definition of trauma that looks more like you went to war and you came back with PTSD, but I really believe everybody to some degree experiences trauma. And in a worst case scenario, it is trauma from those types of experiences that were extreme, like abuse and neglect and accidents and war. But best case scenario for most of us is that we had relational trauma, attachment trauma. And here's how I look at it, is that no person is in our heads all the time. They can't know. And what about babies? Like, they can't speak. So we're guessing what to do, and we're going to miss the mark. We're going to not meet all of our children's needs. And so therefore our parents didn't meet all of our needs. We know that very clearly. And some of us may not know where it comes from, but very few of us got all of our emotional needs met. It's not about perfection, any of this. It's not about if you perfectly reparent yourself, nor is it about perfect parenting, nor was it about your parents perfectly parenting. The deepest pain is not the initial pain. It's actually the idea that no one was there for us and that we had to turn away from ourselves. The deepest pain we are experiencing is the pain of self-abandonment. When a person did something that did hurt us, and again, this doesn't have to be a massive thing. It could be a misunderstanding. We misperceive the way that our mom or our dad did something, and we think that it's us. That problem is that turns us to become self-conscious. Self-consciousness, that's the beginning of the ego and the sense of turning away from ourselves. This self-consciousness causes us to question our okayness and our essential worth. It turns us outside looking for cues to see, are we okay? And often it causes us to disconnect from our body because it's too painful to be in there experiencing that pain. So we also cut off from all the parts that anyone else gave us the impression, that's not cool, don't do that. And then we experience this inner fragmentation. This is my visual of how a wounded inner child was formed. But you're innocently being you. Remember, we talked about like she's spinning around and she's laughing and having fun. And then someone opens the door and all of a sudden, that's your perception. They give you the impression that whatever you did wasn't okay and shut you down. And then you feel rejection and humiliation and betrayal. You're in your story in your head. And in order to survive, you basically listen to these people and you're like, okay, I guess I shouldn't be that way. I shouldn't do this. You take it personally. And then you think that you're at fault, you're to blame. And in order not to feel that again, because that felt awful, you squashed it all down. And it was just too big to cope with. You couldn't really process or comprehend it, and you didn't have a space to integrate it. So you started to believe you weren't okay as you are. You shut down feelings, you closed off parts of you, you protected yourself, you didn't want those feelings to come out anymore. And it was actually safer to numb out, to not feel what you felt, to ignore those parts of yourself and to push them away. Those hidden hurts come out first as strategies and patterns to get your safety and love. But then I say, if you're lucky, at some point in your life, you start to notice it and you're like, I can't stand that feeling anymore. I think I might rather feel the feelings. I might rather go into the pain. And the other thing we do is we get into fixing ourselves, demanding our own compliance. You got to be better. You got to do better. You got to do everything you can to suppress it all. But inside, you feel less alive. We're the lucky ones that we can no longer tolerate this. We're the lucky ones that under all that pressure, we're ready to explode and we needed to find another way. I am not the inventor of the theory of wholes, though I didn't know about A.H. Alma's until after I had talked about wholes, but I had heard about wholes from the hole in the soul concept that people would talk about. I love this. I'll read this to you. We're born with our essential selves intact. In order for our essence to develop and for us to realize our value and worth, we need to be mirrored by our environment, by our parents. We need to have our emotional needs met and attuned to. And if it doesn't happen, the child will believe that it's their fault and believe they're worthless. And the child develops a hole and they lose connection with their essential worth. And then they cover up the hole where there's a lack of worth with coping strategies or adaptations, which is very much aligned with the whole soul way. Most of us are acting with our inner child in control. We're living based on other people's expectations, repeating patterns, a lot of reactivity and triggers, lots of shoulds and masks and blame and drama and coping. That's usually what it is. It's like we're almost having temper tantrums. And the source of our suffering is those needs that were never met, that sense that we have to pretend we're somebody that we're not, to go outside seeking for love and something to fill that aching hole. And that's just part of this journey. I spoke about Margaret Paul. This is one of my favorite things that she talked about. By the way, that is my beautiful artwork, which it's very hard to find someone who's holding a baby out in front of them. So I took a person and I stuck a baby in her arms. The idea in this visual is that what most of us do for our entire life until we realize it is that we essentially take our inner child and we put our arms out stretched in front of us, and we're walking around looking at everybody being like, will you love my baby? Will you love my baby? The solution is to turn toward her, hold her, grow her up, and allow her to integrate. And we have to love our babies. We're really the only ones who can. And I've said this before, but I think by the time that your kids are probably 13 years old, I have not taught my children this. I wished I did, but I didn't know this, but I've been teaching it more and more now to them. They're the ones that have to love themselves. They're the ones that have to do it. There's a point where we are no longer their central point. Just a recap of some of the ways that our wounded inner child is showing up through that seeking, through trust issues. If you believe that you have to control everything, that you don't want anyone to catch you off guard and hurt you, that's a wounded inner child. Repetition compulsion. This is when we're repeating patterns over and over again in our lives as an invitation to come in and heal up our inner child. But most of us don't take that call. Repetition compulsion is a Freudian term, and that's what most of us do until we wake up and go, oh, these are patterns. I don't want to keep playing out these patterns anymore. What's going on? How can I heal? Another one is living in a fantasy world. Anytime that we have black and white thinking or magical thinking, like we're in fantasy and hope, and we don't live in this present moment because we're like, oh, someday, if this happens, then I'm going to be happy. Or any ways that we're in denial, which most of us are. Denial is pervasive in being a human being. It's part of a survival mechanism, but the more that we can unhook from that, any places where you find yourself having a lack of discipline, addictive or compulsive behaviors, including overthinking and overfeeling, those are wounded inner children. Thought distortions, like when you're in perfectionism or future catastrophizing or awfulizing, when our thoughts are scaring us. Any sense of emptiness, hole in the soul, depression, anytime we're in a drama triangle, anytime that we're in hero, victim, villain, that is an inner child. Nothing wrong. These are all beautiful. And by the way, my wounded inner child is showing up too. I don't want you guys to think that I don't do any of this stuff. I'm still addicted to sugar. One of my favorite people to talk about this is Jeff Foster. I love the way he talks about this, and I'll read this to you. If abandonment is the core wound, the disconnection from mother, the loss of wholeness, then the most potent medicine is this ancient commitment to never abandon yourself, to discover the wholeness and the wholeness, to be a loving mother to your insides, to hold the broken bits in warm, open awareness, and to illuminate the sore places with the light of love. So here we are doing that. My first true experience with self-connection was my son was probably like 10 or 12. I was very easily triggered at that time. A family member who lived near us at the time, we invited her to come over for dinner, and 2 days went by and she didn't respond. And I have a little bit of complicated relationship with that side of the family. So I went into the place of, oh my gosh, is she cutting off from me? Is she upset with me? Did I do something wrong? And I'm spinning, and I'm suffering. I was suffering tremendously. And I got into bed to snuggle with my son before he was going to sleep. And I was in so much anguish. I was having a hard time being present with him. So somehow I did this thing. I must have learned it from somebody, but I didn't know, where I did put my hand on my heart. And I said to myself, I'm okay. We're okay. Even if we did something wrong to upset her, we're okay. I love you. And all of a sudden I'm starting to feel better. And I get up out of bed and I'm like, I feel good. I was like, this is crazy. A couple days go by. I'm completely fine. the family member reaches out. I was on a camping trip and sorry, I had no signal. I didn't even have my phone with me for most of the time. And I was like, oh, see, that's why you need the lovely story, because the lovely story would have helped me to be able to navigate it. But the lovely story is still a bit of a band-aid, because the reality is underneath all of that was my own fear of getting into trouble, my own fear of being abandoned. So that's why the lovely story helps you to not suffer as much. And we need those stories because most of the time our perception's not right, but we've got to also heal at the perception level. And my little child just needed to know that I wasn't going to abandon her. I felt abandoned by someone else. She needed to know I wasn't going to abandon her. So what is the antidote? It's to become who we long for, right? To stand in as our adult self in control, where we are more empowered, where we are more emotionally connected, where we have freedom to be ourselves and safety. That even if another person is going to judge you, you still can be yourself. Even in the risk of judgment, you still will be yourself. You have the skills to be powerful, but soft, strong, and vulnerable, to take courageous action in your life, to feel a sense of self-control. One of the biggest signs of maturity is a sense of emotional mastery, like a sense that you have control over your emotions. And that doesn't mean suppress your emotions. That doesn't mean manage your emotions. It means like you've healed enough that it's like what Louise is saying, like she has some distance and she has some awareness of, I don't need to say that anymore. Or Kim, when she notices her emotions and she's like, I'm not going to react to that person. Any one of us, all the ways that we're navigating this right now, it's not just indulging the inner child or the inner protector. What happens is our inner child gets to rest in our love. And if you look at attachment theory, Gordon Neufeld's my favorite attachment theorist, and he talks about that what a child most needs is to rest in the love and the security of their parents, to not have to hustle for their worth. So we have to come back and not make our inner child hustle for our validation and hustle to feel worthy. One of the biggest gifts you can give your child is your own nervous system regulation, a regulated nervous system, so they have something to co-regulate to. In some ways it sounds crazy, but imagine if you, adult you, could get emotionally regulated so that your inner child could regulate to you. It makes no sense because you're like, we're the same people, but you can do it. Like you could say, oh, my inner child is dysregulated. My inner protector is dysregulated. Oh, I'm going to step into my inner adult. I might be able to actually regulate myself. She might be able to co-regulate to me. It's not even just these kind of heavy things. But can we also play and be curious? Can we be affectionate? And can we help her to make sense of the world? And can we come together as an integrated child, adult, going out and doing crazy, awesome, amazing things in the world that we never thought we would be able to do before, because we were acting from this inner child who was scared to death. She was like, I can't do this. I'm 5. I'm 5 years old. Like I'm too scared to do that thing. In parts work, they talk about actually asking your inner child, how old do you think we are? And the inner child's 5. And you say to your 5-year-old inner child, no, actually, we're 52 years old. And the inner child's, what? 52 years old? How do we get so old? So there's something about that disconnect, and we have to help that inner child see that we are adults. This is a Burning Man exhibit that was done to depict that your inner child just wants to connect and love and be with, but our inner protectors are all girded and we turn our back to each other and we're like, no, no. But the inner child's, but I just want to be loved. I just want to connect. It's pretty powerful.
Hey there, Deb here. Just one quick interruption. If you've been diving into the Whole Soul Way round 1, the foundation and core lessons, and you're finding that it's really resonating with you, that is amazing. Now, some of you will get so much out of this free content, and that will be enough. But if you ever feel called to take it deeper, or you think you'd like a little bit more support, just know that there is a whole journey waiting for you inside our full program. Joining the full Whole Soul Way container means that you'll be part of a community. Not just any community, a community of people who are incredibly committed to their journey, who are engaged, empathetic, and so inspiring. And this community and my leadership means that you get more support and contextualization to your own life. Also, you'll have access to rounds 2 and 3 and future rounds that I create, where we take what you've learned in the foundations and then practice applying it to the nuance of our lives. We experience deeper embodiment of the healing, and it really allows us to step more fully into this way of living. This is really where the deeper transformation unfolds, when you have the support you need, community, in a container that's really sacred and safe. So if this is speaking to you, I definitely would say check out the full program and see if and how we could support your growth on an even deeper level. You can check it out at thewholesoulway.com/program. Okay, let's get back to it.
One of the most important things we have to do is really grieve our fantasy. And I have worked with a lot of people who have a very hard time letting go of the fantasy of the knight in shining armor. The fantasy that, no, really, my mom and dad are going to actually do their inner work and they're gonna love me the way that I want, or my friends are going to be able to do that. And we have to grieve that. When we decide to become the one that we long for, we have to let go of that. We have to let go of trying to make other people be more responsible, make them more mature, or ways we abdicate responsibility for ourselves and for our own emotional needs, because we have this false belief that there is someone out there who will do it for us. And we're unconsciously playing out the same thing over and over again, and no one's coming. No one is coming. So it's sad. And it's actually something to grieve. It's something to grieve that, like, you can't depend on anyone. I work with a lot of women who felt that they could never really depend on anyone. And I'd say to them, you have to take yourself that last mile. I'm really sorry that you have to continue to be self-reliant for this last mile where you really do step in as your inner parent. And it's only then that you have any hope that you're going to actually get it reflected out in the world for you. And that's the beauty. John Bradshaw, another one of my favorite people in the space of parenting ourselves, says this neglected, wounded inner child of the past is the major source of human misery. I would reword this slightly and say, the fact that our inner child is wounded and neglected by us, she's trying to get our attention, and so she causes misery. So until we reclaim and champion, that child's going to continue to act out and contaminate our adult lives. So she's only doing it because she's desperate. Just like our children do the same stupid stuff as that our inner child does. They like get all obnoxious, annoying, and they tug at us and they whine and they complain because some need is not being met for them. What are some of the ways that our inner child is trying to get our attention? We already mapped out a lot of this, right? Every time that you go out there and look to see where your ego shows up, all the shoulds, the judgments, the coping mechanisms, defense mechanisms, any adaptations to our environment, unhealthy patterns, bad behaviors, pain in our body, like physical pain in our body, and tension, self-sabotage. Why don't I ever get what I want? What's going on? Control tactics, the way we try to control other people and our surroundings. So we all know that all those things were happening as children, and now the past becomes present, and we start to see all these ways we act, right? And we have all these trailheads. And so we get to actually do something about them. Something touches that hole, the wound, the pain, the thorn, and then it hurts our inner child. Ouch. It's like right in the hole. Ow. And then quickly our inner protector comes in, right? Standing guard to make it stop hurting. Our inner protector is always going to be compelling. It's very hard to even know what's our soul versus our inner protector, because our inner protector can practically masquerade as the soul. Like, no, really. You have to do that's the right thing. So until we start cleaning things up and having a more clear lens that we're looking through, we often don't even know if we can fully trust ourselves. But I can tell more and more of you are starting to feel like you can trust yourselves, and it's beautiful to watch. Our inner protector is usually going to convince us to do something, act out in fight or flight. Anytime you feel urgency, that's the inner protector. Anytime you feel urgency, that is one of the best indicators. And then eventually we come back to homeostasis and we go, what the heck just happened? Hello, unconscious and unresolved pain and unfelt feelings and all of that. And that is why we do the Trigger Trail Buddy. One is going to internalize the concept of the inner child, inner protector, and inner parent differently. And you do not have to do it in any certain way. You see here that you want to do it from the brain, do it from the brain. The adult's the prefrontal cortex, the inner child's the limbic emotional brain, and the inner protector is the amygdala or the fear brain. You can do it from the place of feelings, fears, and needs, looking at thoughts and stories. You can do it from the top of your mountain, looking at your young self, not even your inner self, just you as a young child. You can step in as your parent and actually hold your little baby in the front carrier, or you can be driving in your car and you just buckle them in the back seat. So whatever works for you, or some other version. In fact, if you have something else that does work for you, tell me and I'll add it to this for the future. So more people see that there are many ways that you can be stepping in as your adult self and how you relate to these parts. We're taking 100% responsibility for ourselves, no more, no less. What do we do to do that? We step in as our inner adults and we start observing how our patterns are happening. We look at our inner relationship, our own self, my own patterns. What's my inner protector saying? What's my wounded inner child doing? What's my inner parent doing? And then also all of our external relationships, right? And we start to notice, where do we abdicate responsibility? Where am I not stepping in as my inner parent and I'm just wishing someone else would do something different? The number of times that we do things like something happens and another person says, I can't help you or something. And then we're all in this place of, that's rude and what's wrong, whatever. And it's, no, you know what? They get to do whatever they want to do. We are in charge of us. They get to do them and we get to do us. But we're mad at other people because they're not doing what we want them to do, because we're usually not doing what we need to do for ourselves. And watch for the ways that we abdicate responsibility to other people. It happens all the time. You shouldn't do it for this reason, but I'm telling you that when you start doing all these things for yourself, that's when everybody reflects it for you in the outside world. Everyone's helpful and loving and compassionate and caring in a whole different way when you shift the patterns. I don't believe in doing this work for that purpose. I think we should do it for our own self-nurturance and for the betterment of the entire world and universe. But it is the bonus of the work. How much do we try to control other people to feel safe? Literally not say something because we don't want to upset them, because we don't want to feel those feelings. And then, of course, all of us know the feelings of looking outside of ourselves for answers. Parenting ourselves is the how of self-love. People talk about, yeah, you should love yourself all the time, but nobody's given really good, clear instructions on how to love yourself. I say it's parenting yourselves. That's what it is. That's the act. We build a relationship with ourselves. We talk to ourselves like we would a close friend or our child, instead of the way that often we're talking to ourselves pretty meanly, right? We feel the feelings that we never got to feel. We come to accept ourselves as we are. We include and accept radically all the parts of who we are. We come into wholeness. We love ourselves more fully, not in spite of, but because of our imperfections and our flaws. We become the source of our own safety and love. We act in alignment with our own inner truth, even if it means we have to go against the grain. We stop feeling alone, because you're never alone. You're literally never alone, because you are always with you. And we ultimately become less self-absorbed because we're not compulsively seeking out there. We are emotionally available. We become so filled with love that we spill over. So it's a beautiful journey that we're on. And this is the opposite of selfish. That's why it blows my mind when anyone says self-love is selfish. I'm like, oh my God, you just don't understand it. When you think about you parenting children or being a child, you know that there are multiple ways that we engage with our children. Same with our inner child relationship, that we engage on a day-to-day basis with basic self-care, attunement, protecting ourselves. Then you face a challenge, like when you get triggered or whatever, but also just anything that's happening in your life, right? A child comes to you and is like, someone did this mean thing, and you help them through that. Acceptance. Our child comes with us with big feelings and emotions, and it's helping a child to navigate those feelings, feel their sensations, feel our needs. But we so often don't do that for others or ourselves. And then self-leadership, helping our child to grow up and take risks and step into the world and to set boundaries and take charge of herself. So if you look at this, the first three are probably, actually, I would say the acceptance one is very much around the nurturance. The bottom two kind of teeter in the masculine and the feminine, right? And the top one in self-leadership is much more the masculine, the going out into the world, the energy of showing up and doing things in the world. And they all matter. They all matter. But in this particular module and this program, really, it's really about how to nurture ourselves. The next thing we're going to do after creating a routine for self-connection is we're going to talk about bearing witness. Very few people have experienced true bearing witness. And what most of us really needed as a child was just to feel heard, to feel like we were important enough to sit down and say, tell me more, and to listen and to be held, not to need to fix anything or solve any problems, and to feel the feelings and then be able to experience it and metabolize everything that happened. And so that's what we have to do for ourselves. And we can do it. Totally. But most of us didn't learn it because the reason why you respond to yourself by fixing and solving is probably because that's what your parents did. So that's what you learned. And that's why it's the natural thing to do. But it's also just common out in the world. It's what a lot of people do. Feelings that have been pushed away do not actually disappear. They live on in the darkness of the unconscious, and they pull the strings in our relationships, our work, our self-expression, causing us to become reactive and compulsive and obsessive, depressed, anxious, and they deteriorate our physical health until one day we remember all the feelings have a right to exist in us. And so we stop numbing ourselves and we feed them love and attention and curiosity and presence, and then they can come to rest. And that's what's crazy about it, right? We're trying to keep ourselves from feeling all those because we're so afraid we're going to get engulfed or we're going to become this person who can't function anymore, when actually it's giving them a voice and listening to them that allows them to get quiet. Otherwise, imagine like you have a house with a basement and you've got all these unruly children and they're down there with the broom handles banging up on the ground, and they're like starting fires and they're doing things because they're like, nobody listens to me. And then on the next floor, you got the inner protector just being like, shh, stop it. Oh, we're trying to control you and control your emotions. And then the top floor is suffering from all of the smoke and all of the turbulence going on. So you got to go down into the basement and just say, hey, kiddos, come jump on my lap and let's talk about this. The problem that I see over and over again is that we forget to step in as our inner adult. And that's the biggest practice you're going to have to get into here. It's like a habit. Keep stepping in as your inner adult, and you're going to forget, and then you're going to remember. It's almost like when you're triggered, like how you have to forget, and then you remember. Well, same thing with this. You'll forget, and you'll go, why am I suffering so much? Oh, I'm in my inner child. I'm not holding my inner child. I got enmeshed with my inner child. Now you are a powerful and capable adult. You're not the 5-year-old, but your inner child at the same time but I'm young and I'm powerless and I'm helpless and I'm afraid and vulnerable and dependent. And your inner child only remembers that she couldn't move, she couldn't get away, she couldn't fight back, she couldn't have a voice, she couldn't say what she needed. That's all she remembers. So she needs you to remind her it's different now. But as an adult, you actually can be there for her and with her, and you remind her, oh, honey, oh, I totally get like how you feel. You feel powerless right now. That was really hard to be in that situation. I'm here. Together, we are powerful. We can take action. We can walk away. Now, I just want to say one thing. That's also hard because a lot of adults don't want to take the action to do what they need to do to really protect their inner child because they don't want to disrupt their lives. Sometimes we have to just be honest with ourselves there too and be like, I'm not willing to make the choice that I have to make yet. As a child, for me, my parents were not willing to do some of the things they needed to do to protect me because it would have been disruptive. And I think that's common. They didn't want to destroy our family and they didn't have the courage. So it's courageous. It's courageous to stand up and do the right thing for our inner child and for our children. But the trick is to not get enmeshed and consumed by our inner child's feelings of hopelessness and helplessness and powerlessness, to be able to hold her big feelings without being in her big feelings. And to also acknowledge the inner protector. Oh, look at you. You totally want to protect me. You're awesome. I love that you want to protect me. And let's work together as a team. You're the impulsive one and I'm the thoughtful one. Let's try to figure this out together. I'm going to listen to you, but then I'm going to make a plan on what we're going to do. And as we're doing this, we have to be continuing to regulate our nervous systems and feel our feelings. The trick is not believing that what's happening in the present day is the source of your pain. It's almost always old, young parts. Now, That doesn't mean there isn't something happening that needs to be dealt with in the moment. There absolutely might be, and often is. But the pain that you're feeling is usually from the past. And then we have to go through the work first so we can see clearly and make sure that whatever decisions that we're making come from the inner adult, not from the wounded inner child. But if you're in a situation and if it's dangerous, this is not the work to do in that moment. Keep yourself safe. This is the work to do when you're in a safe situation, but your amygdala is a little bit on fire, but you're actually in a safe situation.
I want to remind you one last thing. This is a practice. This is something you haven't been doing. How many years have you been spending? Probably pretty much cutting off from your inner child and all your inner feelings and all that. It's a practice. And oftentimes what happens is we may have a little reaction to this content. Your inner protector may be like, this isn't the answer. The answer is for other people to do this for you. I get it. My inner protector still tells me that. And I've been doing this for a decade. So it gets easier. The relationship does start to become more natural. And you do start to build trust with your inner child. But it's okay if it feels a little awkward and some of these things that we're talking about here still feel a little bit weird. It's all right. It's okay. It's no big deal. It's just your defense mechanisms showing up, but that's fine. Just keep practicing and don't lose hope. Okay, well, that's a wrap on that steps foundational lesson. Let's just pause for a moment though, because this next part matters more than you might realize. You've just absorbed some powerful lessons, and I know how tempting it is to just hit next and keep learning, to gather more knowledge and more insights and more understanding. I know that feeling, but here's the truth. I've learned in my own experience and after years walking alongside many people on this journey, wisdom without action is just information. And information alone doesn't change our lives. Think of it like this. You wouldn't go to the gym, watch someone else lift weights, and expect to get stronger. The transformation happens when you pick up the weight. These exercises, well, they're your weights. They're where the real work and the real magic happens. So here's what I'm inviting you to do next. If you haven't already, go download the exercises workbook at thewholesoulway.com/workbooks. You'll notice that there are 2 workbooks available for each step, one with the lesson content and one specifically for exercises. Make sure you grab the exercises workbook because that's where the inner work part of this lives. And here's something else important for you to know. Some of the exercises, they only appear in the workbook and some of them only appear on audio or video, and that's why you need both. And for those of you who like guided experiences, I've also created some supporting meditations on Insight Timer. You can go to insighttimer.com/Deb Blum. Sometimes we need that gentle voice guiding us deeper, and I'm really excited that these meditations are now on Insight Timer for you as well. Now, I want to remind you of something I shared in the Why the Whole Soul Way episode, and that is about the universal law of fair exchange. This program is free, and I've made it that way intentionally because I believe everyone should have access to what I'm teaching. But energy still needs to be balanced so we don't sabotage our own potential for transformation. One of the most powerful ways that you can honor this exchange is by actually doing the exercises, by truly showing up for yourself, and by doing the inner work. That's the exchange. I give you the lessons, the tools, and the exercises, and you do the work. And that's how we keep this energy flowing. That's how we honor what we're creating together. And if you feel called, another beautiful way that you can balance this energy is to share it with somebody else that you feel could benefit from it. And I would love it if you would rate and review the podcast or like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. This is the way that we can create ripples of transformation together. One awakened soul inspiring another. So before you go, remember that the next section includes both additional lessons that will help round out the foundational lesson and those transformational exercises. So go do them now while your heart is open and your commitment is fresh. Your transformation is waiting for you, not only in the next lesson, but in the work that you're about to do. So as you do the exercises, I would love to hear from you. Feel free to leave a comment on what you've learned or what your experience is like. Okay, I'll see you in the exercises.